We're in San Francisco's famed Haight-Ashbury, joining the legendary rock and sports photographer Michael Zagaris, or Z-Man as he's known in the profession. He's covered some of the most influential musicians of the day: the Rolling Stones, The Who, Santana, Blondie, Bruce Springsteen, Madonna, and the list goes on as you'll see. He became a sports photographer in the 70s and is in fact the team photographer for the San Francisco 49ers. Let's find out why he's known as the inside-out shooter, and he'll tell you how he's able to go so deep with his photography. Michael, thanks for joining us on Advancing Your Photography and inviting us to your studio.
Hey, it's great that you guys could come, especially on a day like this.
Okay, tell me about your approach to photography and the type of work you really love to do.
Well, as far as the type of work I like to do, I've always considered myself more in the vein of photojournalism. You know, I like to capture, if not reality, things that appear to be real. I've always considered what I do and my approach to it more like being an actor, where you put on the clothes, and it's very Stanislavski. You become what you shoot. And that's how I've always tried. That's why I actually got into it. It's allowed me to live out various movies as a character in the movie while documenting it at the same time. And it's always given me cachet and entree to situations where you'd never get into unless you were doing this.
I notice you're known as the inside-out shooter.
Yeah, and you know, I've always wanted, not only to experience what I'm shooting myself, but bring people that are viewing my work behind the scenes, whether it be in music, whether it be in politics, whether it be street scenes, whether it be sports, and give them the vision of the very people that I'm shooting. And I wanted to bring people behind the scenes and show them things that they've never seen.
How do you do that? How do you get in there and just get that moment with the emotion with your subject?
You know, it's funny. I could sit here and tell you how I do it, except I don't know. I've always just kind of flowed with it, and it's just like dancing or anything else. You're there, you're talking, or you're not talking, and you're moving and you're capturing it. And it's never been with me much of a thought process. And that's actually been maddening to some people. Yeah. They'll say, how did you plan this? Or what was your f-stop? Or I don't know. I know, but that's never been important.
It's not the point.
It's all about the flow with me. And I've tried to, whatever I do, first, hopefully, really connect with your subject or your environment and who you're shooting with. Sometimes it's easy.
So let's take a look at that connection point. What are some sort of inside tips for making that kind of connection?
Being a person that you really pay attention, viscerally in your soul, and try to read where you are and who you are and how you fit in relation to your subjects. Sometimes it means almost being invisible. Other times it means really relating to an individual or groups of individuals.
Okay, Michael, any tips for composition?
You know, what you're doing, whether you're a still photographer or whether you're a cinematographer or videographer, you want to see when you're done what you want to see when you start out. What is your vision? If you're doing people, that's certainly important, but you also might want to frame it in the context of where you're at. That'll tell a story too. The backdrop, the angle, the lens. The lens really adds a lot to your composition, whether you're using a standard, a 50 millimeter lens, or if you're using a wide angle lens to incorporate more of, the background or the room. That's all important. That being said, I usually have in my mind what I want. And if I were shooting in here today and I had never been in here, and it was one of those things where, okay, you're going to have a half an hour or 45 minutes with somebody, I'll bring a 16 to 35 zoom. I'll bring a 105 portrait lens. And as I walk in, I kind of take the room in, and if you know who you're going to be shooting, you can, in your own mind, pretty much sort it out pretty fast. Okay, what you think is going to work. And it's very subjective. You know, in the end, what we do, it's basically our vision. And it's not unlike a visual diary. And when you're done, you're doing it for you, and then you're sharing it with other people.
What would you say are the key components that you use every time you pick up a camera, or even before you pick one up?
Most of the things I shoot because I want to explore more. I want to be there. I want to become that moment, or be with these people. If, for instance, shooting baseball, for me, it's no different than a player. From the moment I walk through the doors of the clubhouse, in my mind, I'm a player. I'm a major league ball player, and I'm preparing for the game. People know. It's like you're part of the team, and they not only don't give you any shit, they don't mug for the cameras, and you've become, if not invisible, part of their teammates, and that allows you to capture them as they really are. More of like a reality TV without the non-reality. Right. And it allows me to approach it as if I'm getting ready for the game.
So give me an example of that kind of experience, that connection in the rock world.
With the Rolling Stones, I remember in '72, before they'd go on stage, they had a makeup artist. And depending on who it was, Mick had, a lot more, like rouge here, and then there's eyeshadow and Egyptian kohl. Then I'd sit down and I'd get some on there. Because I wanted to, I figure if you're going to capture the experience, I want to be what I'm shooting. Now, there are some people that'll tell you that's bullshit. You've got to be objective. And you know what? I'm not going to say they're wrong. That's how they approach it, and that's their vision of it. Go for it.
Gotcha.
But for me, I've got to really be involved.
Okay, on a practical point here, can you kind of walk us through a step-by-step for how you prepare for a shoot and how you actually get out there and start getting those images?
It depends on what kind. If I'm going to do a cover where we're going to go in a studio and do something, I might start a couple of weeks ahead of time by thinking, okay, I'm going to do so-and-so for this magazine cover. What do I want to do? How do I see them? And I've got stacks of magazines that go back to the late 60s, early 70s. And they're not just photo magazines. I mean, most of the things I draw on are things like Italian Vogue, English Vogue, French Vogue, a lot of European magazines and books. And I'll go through, I might take a couple days just going through and getting ideas. Like, oh, wow, this is great. But I'll do that. And then I'll try to, if I'm going to shoot you, for instance, you and I talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'll say we could do this. And how do you feel about it? What do you? And then I usually tell them, hey, you know what? This isn't about me taking just your picture. I want more than that. Let's do something that in 40 or 50 years you can look back on and go, this is incredible. This is dynamite. I want you to act or to be either who you are or who you think you are or who you'd like to be. But you have to put it out there. And I don't care if there's 80 people here. Screw them. There's just you and me. And that's hard, but let's try to do that.
Okay, you have a huge library of work. Out of that, are there any like real favorites for you in terms of your shots?
If I had to choose a few, that shot of I got of Coach Walsh and Joe in the championship game in January of '85, the '84 season, where it looks like they're diagramming a play in the dirt, and that wasn't really planned. It's something I just saw, and ended up crawling on my hands and knees, with a wide-angle lens and shooting. The shot of the Who at Winterland, right at the climax of the show, where Peter Townsend is throwing his guitar in the air, and you see everybody in Winterland with their arms outstretched, and Daltrey's been swinging the microphone. It just captures a moment in time, and I think the best ones, I hope the best ones, have yet to be taken.
There you go.
Z-Man,
any final advice for viewers who want to get better shots?
Just remain engaged and always be open. Try to see and feel everything and just capture it. I think the most important thing is to shoot what really moves you and shoot what you feel. Whether you're doing it just for pleasure as an amateur or whether you're doing it for a job. Something that really resonates in you and moves you. Because chances are, if it moves you, it's going to move some other people too.
Michael, thank you for joining us and for giving us an inside look into your world of photography.
Hey, it was great being here. It really was.
You got it.
I've never given a non-X-rated interview. I had to really think a couple. I had to think a couple times. I was like,
thanks for joining us with Z-Man. Be sure to take his tips to heart to capture reality with your subjects. Be sure to subscribe now to follow all of our videos. Follow us both on Instagram. We love it when you like us, when you share, and when you leave your comments. Until next time, get out and capture your own images of life.